people here, and how long have you been a flat earther?
Oh, 6 months, man.
Wow.
6 months, dude. I'm a conspiracy theorist, like, pro now, though. I'm all about it, man.
There you go. I love your energy, brother.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love the energy of the crowd and everything like that. And that's why I wanted to personally ask people here that live in the Raleigh-Durham area that if you're here and you're felt alone for so long and you're like, dude, finally there's a flat earth group I can go to. We don't want you to go back home being alone again. So I got an email address called flatearthgroup@gmail. And we'll also be meeting people out there. But go ahead, shoot me like a little email. Be happy to get you taken care of so you're not alone again. As far as you want to go, if you're also from Cali or wherever, and you want to be like, hey, dude, can you just tell me if any Cali people? Just draw me your name, city, and state. That's it. I'll hook you up. I'll be like, yo, this person from Cali wants to link up too. So yeah, happy to help. But yes, thank you guys.
Thank you, brother. There you go. Thanks, brother. I think I just got some of that from him. Woo! I just had 5 pots of coffee. He's still going. Yeah. That was the Flash. That's Paul. No, that's Paul. That's Paul. He's from here, and they're doing meetups. You're from around here, right? Oh. Oh, well, you know what? No, if you're alone, if you feel alone, they're with you? They're with you. So everybody's with Gino tonight. All right. Are you all with me? All right. I do believe I see the counter up there is ready to go. But I'm going to ask these guys real quick with my handy-dandy earpiece. What's next? What's next? Oh, those guys. Those guys. Oh, yeah. I knew that. These guys are next. Are you guys ready? The entire panel's coming up, huh? This group right here? All right. I love it. Well, please welcome to the stage. Here she comes. I love your outfit. Carly Sunshine. Carly Medrano. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Bob Nodell. David Weiss. I'm sorry, buddy. I was high-fiving you anyway. There you go, Bobby. He was on the news, by the way. This guy was. And he got away with flying a drone in North Carolina illegally, and he's a Yankee. We had bail money just in case. Daryl Marble, come on down. Yes. And, of course, your host with the most, the lovely Patricia Steer. Does anybody want to sit here? Robbie, would you like to join the crew? No? I guess you have an empty seat.
All right, wonderful. Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Aren't we all happy to be here? I actually can't believe this is really happening, but this is day number 2, so it must have sunk in by now. This is so life-affirming. I never thought when I started doing Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes in 2015 that we'd have a conference. But now there's this conference. And then we've got one in the UK coming up, a convention that Gary John is putting on. And then there's something happening in maybe Australia and something happening somewhere in Europe and other ones yet to come all over the US, more mixers and more meetups. And we used to think when we got started individually in this, whether you're a content provider or you write a book or whether you got a channel or not, that we were alone and that no one thought these things we thought. And wouldn't it be nice to know some of those people making those videos? But now we do know each other. And I think that this whole event is going to have a healing effect on the whole Flat Earth, in quotes now, community. Because there has been some infighting and there has been some attacks from people who won't let go of their globe. But I think this is going to bring us together, and we'll realize when we see each other on YouTube that we're we're friends in some sense and family in another sense. And that even if we may have different beliefs, be they spiritually or be they about models, in the end, we have one thing in common. We live on a flat plane, and we are the creation of the Creator. So, with that in mind,
Wait. I found the other guy.
I want to introduce the panel, which is now complete. Perfect timing. Rich, have a seat. I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what their specialty is and what they're known for. And some have already been on the stage, so they'll have to rephrase it again. So let's start with DITRH or DITRA or DIRTH or DIRT first. Maybe it's not on. Mic check. He's just like the Fonz.
There we go. My YouTube is DITRH, stands for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, for maybe two of you that didn't know that. And I do a podcast called The Flat Earth Podcast, easy to remember, flatearthpodcast.com, where it's good for beginners and anybody that's just looking for what's new in Flat Earth. And that's who I am.
All right, up next, we're going to go with D Marble, Daryl Marble.
Well, my channel's name is D Marble. Because, that's just my name. I'm the common sense guy in Flat Earth. I'm just going to keep everything really simple, just show you things that are very observable, repeatable, testable, as science should be. Also, I'll make videos about life living in my van, or living out of my van from time to time, and, talking about some other things, but we'll get into that a little bit later, perhaps.
Thank you, Dee. Up next, we're going to ask Carly Sunshine to tell us about her channel.
I'll just put this in front of you because I think it'll work.
Well, my name is Carly, and I go by Carly Sunshine on YouTube. That is my YouTube channel. And I'm also quite active on Facebook. I run over 12 Flat Earth Facebook groups, but my baby is called Flat and Happy, and I'm sure some of you here are in that group. I've been involved in Flat Earth since about February, March of 2015, and I just want to say I'm extremely honored to be here. I can't believe that this is happening, that we're here, that we are changing the world, we are making history, and I don't want to get emotional, but I feel like on the way here that I came home, because we're all here together now. It all makes sense to each other. I love all you guys. Thank you for this opportunity.
And Bob Nodell, who, because you're so tall, you look like Carly is. We know you, of course, but tell us a little bit about your channel in case there's one person here who doesn't know.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Bob Nodell, and I'm the host of the Globebuster Show on YouTube, and we kind of strive to cover the more technical aspects of Flat Earth. And so that's what we do.
And a shout out to Cami Nodell as well, as long as we can. My mic interruption. Rich.
We working?
Yes.
My name is Rich, and my channel is Mr. Thrive and Survive, and I'm not very active on Facebook. For those that know me, I'm sort of an anti-Facebook. Maybe if I back up, can you still hear me? Closer? Okay, as long as we don't get the feedback. Yes, I'm not a big Facebook person, but I do have Mr. Thrive and Survive Facebook. I also have a channel, a website called matrixbusting.com that I have decided now to make that a repository or a depository for guys like you out there to deposit the different scientific papers you come up with, your experiments and different things like that, without commentary, without the the trolling and the back and forth, just the plain science that you have discovered, like a scientific white paper. I met somebody here, believe it or not, who wasn't even in this conference, who came in from next door and just happened to catch my speech yesterday, and he wants to help developed the website. He's a professional website person, which I thank God for that because I'm not. And in a nutshell, my big thing is empirical evidence. And to me, in the long run, empirical evidence is what's going to break the shell and get us to critical mass where it'll be laughed at to say you actually believed in the sphere and that it moved at some point. And I think that point is coming very, very soon as the evidence of worldwide media here, I think, speaks to pretty clearly. Thank you very much.
Well, this Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes panel show is really about your questions. When I do my show on YouTube, I go into the live chat and I ask people who are there in the chat to ask questions if they want or contribute. And this is really your opportunity to ask questions. But before you go to the microphones that are set up, I think there are two, although I can't see them, and ask questions, if you have one, formulate a question if you've got for any of the panel members. I'm going to ask each panel member in the same order that we just went through to tell us what their thoughts are on the future of flat Earth, or if you don't even like the term flat Earth, non-globular Earth. Where do you think this awakening, movement, community, where do you think it's going? And we're going to go with DITRH with the very first answer.
That's a question I've been asked several times today. And my answer is, I don't think it's going away. You know, I keep waiting when I'm in the car driving. I'm like, all right, this flat Earth thing, it's just going to go away one day. And, you know, it didn't seem real. Now I'm here in the largest gathering of flat Earthers ever, this time around at least. And it is real. And, you know, next year, I'm predicting the conference to be a minimum of twice the size, if not substantially larger, because I don't see anybody waking up to flat Earth and going back. It just doesn't happen. So, you know, it's literally the Matrix. We've all taken the red pill, and the steak and the blue pill is out of the question. You can't go back even if you want to. So I see it happening rather quickly. I like that Jaron threw down the gauntlet that NASA is going to be done this year. I'm holding them to it. And when that happens, the world is going to change. So we will see what the elite do to try to protect their biggest secret ever, the one that they protect with NASA and, you know, every other agency, you know, the Hollywood, everything, in my opinion, is to protect their lie of heliocentricity. So I think it's coming. Let's see what they do to try to stop it. I don't think anyone is going back to sleep. And I see the world changing.
Perfect. And when it comes, living without fear is one of the ways that we're going to get through it. Daryl, what's your answer to the same question? Where are we going?
Where we're going, where no man has gone before. No, that'd be fake space. But the future of flat Earth, I'm seeing this is going to be, as has been said before, as I said on stage yesterday, is we're headed towards a tipping point, because pretty much like Dave just said, once you go flat, you don't go back. You know, nobody's going back to believing in the globe. So I've said this a few times. Within 5 years, flat Earth is going to be common knowledge, and it's going to be just embarrassing to have been duped to believe that we're on a spinning ball rocket, as Rand Campbell says, flying through space. You know, monkeys turning into people and all that. It's going to be laughable in a rather short period of time. So we have absolutely nothing to worry about. As you can see here, saturation is coming. So that's where I see it.
Thank you. And now when I see the globe, it provokes laughter in me. Whenever I see the globe, same. I look on my iPhone, I see the globe icon. I'm like, well, who are you kidding here? Well, the same question is now to be posed to Carly Sunshine. Where do you see this awakening going? Carly.
Well, very similar to what I'm sure how the rest of us feel. You know, I agree with the idea of critical mass coming, tipping point. We're going to be changing the education system. But I also take a little different view as far as I look at it from more of like a humanity standpoint. Flat Earth is allowing us all to understand who we are as humans and where we came from, and that we are intelligently designed, and that we have so much phenomenal potential. And in my mind, I see that that's a huge rift in the world right now, and we're moving towards that now. So if where I see Flat Earth in the future is us starting to heal humanity so that we understand our potential and how important we are, and that's why we're realizing that the Earth is flat, because it is intelligently designed. This was created for us. That's where I see this going.
Wonderful, Carly. And I think it's no accident that you speak of healing and I spoke of healing. I think, I'm not saying that men and women are, it's a woman's thing, I think. We do think along those lines oftentimes about bringing around the peace. All right, up next, Bob Nodell. Where do you think this ship is going?
Well, I'm really pleased with where it has gone. We've made a lot of progress in the past 2 years, 2.5 years that we've been doing the show, and seen a lot more people join the movement. But I wish I could say that I believed that it was going to be all, flowers and rosy and everything, but I think that we're going to be running across some hard times, because the people that are in control of this world are not going to give that control up easily. And we can expect a fight. I mean, we're already starting to see it manifest in YouTube, where, all the truthers are essentially getting their channels shut down for even talking about, some of the other conspiracies out there, like, Las Vegas or anything like that. And, let's face it, Flat Earth is the biggest, it's the granddaddy of all conspiracies. And when we start coming out with enough evidence that is really persuasive, and we start presenting this information to the universities, and we start appealing to the professionals, the scientists, the physicists, the engineers out there, and get them to start asking questions, at that point, and leading up to that point, I believe that we're going to be in for quite a battle. And but in the long run, I really believe that I have faith in humanity, and I think that ultimately we can pull this off. But it's not going to be an easy road. So that's where I think we're at.
I agree, Bob. It's a challenge for all of us who are in the know to become our better selves and be an example. People say this is a leadership movement, but we all can lead by example. And one of the things when you find out about this truth that burns within you is the desire to communicate it to other people, to wake other people up. And it's not easy. My brother won't even talk to me anymore. And I know we all have similar stories, but I do think that's part of what we need, because like Bob was saying, we're going to be facing some strong attack. So if we have more members of the, I guess army is a little bit warlike, but I'll just say army at this point, it'll make it easier because we have more of us. And this right here is a good start, right? So, Richard Hopkins, or shall I just call you Thrive? What's your answer to the same question?
I'll give you a two-part answer, short-term and long-term, what I think is going to happen anyway. Nobody knows the future, but we can, from current trends, kind of get a little bit of an idea. I want to start out by saying that nobody in this movement, or whatever you want to call it, died and left somebody the shill police. And that is a cancer that is growing in the community, so to speak, where people think they have the authority to call other people shills and things like that. That is internal cancer that is best solved by just ignoring it. Simply ignoring it, unsubscribe, forget them. The other short-term issue is, now that we have so much empirical evidence that we've been lied to about the Earth and about many other things, the whole cosmology, we're going to face an issue of now trying to determine what the model is. And my caution with that is, remember that you were programmed to react as laughter or to reject Flat Earth when you first heard it. This comes from the education system when we were all children, and it just built all the way up. And now that we're going to be looking at different models, remember that if you don't have empirical evidence that says it's round or square or in this, a slice of pizza shape, whatever, that keep your mind open is what I'm saying. Don't be dogmatic and say, no, it's got to be the azimuthal equatorial. And it may be that one. It may be. But until we get enough evidence to try to narrow it down, and I personally don't think we will ever know it all. First of all, we don't have the funding like NASA has. You know, the biggest thing we have is to put balloons together and P900s and things like that. Eventually, we will have funding, I believe, that will come from people saying, finally, let's stop sending billions of tax dollars each year to NASA. Because what have they produced for humanity? Absolutely nothing.
I think they produce Tang, maybe.
Yeah, Tang, that's right. We have dried chemical orange juice
Right.
from NASA. Long term, flat Earth, I believe, is a major part, maybe the biggest part of the gateway drug to truth. Someone very famously once said, "The truth shall set you free." And the flat Earth truth and many other truths are now, if you haven't noticed, coming out in the woodwork. They're not totally exposed yet, but they're getting there. We have a bunch of political corruption all over the world that I believe is slowly being unraveled right now. We want it to end today and be over with. But it's going to take some time. And as several people have said up here, it isn't going to be an easy road. And the thing to do is remember, and this is one thing that I've noticed that I did not expect, there's a separation. The people that believe in flat Earth, they have the good fruits of humanity for the most part. Whereas the other side, it's filled with hatred and vitriol and spewing out anger. You can see that division. Anybody that looks at a comment thread on any one of the channels. And just remember, good will overcome evil as long as you keep producing good fruits and don't buy into all that. So you all in the audience, I can't, and those watching either now or in the future on video, I can't stress it enough that each individual is a cell in this body of truth that is trying to now be opened up, this envelope that's been hidden. All the lies we've been told, they're being ripped away and the truth is coming out of the bottle. So keep up the good fruits, combine one another with one another to help to move it whatever which way you can, but stay on the good side. And you all, I mean, it just warms my heart meeting most of you people here that I've gotten to know even just a little bit. It actually brings tears to my eyes almost. The goodness that I sense and feel with all the people that are here. And that is a major thing not to forget that this movement brings. So.
A great positive end note, Rich. We get accused, content providers, even those who don't make videos and don't even have channels, they don't even comment, of being agents. And guess what? We all are agents. Shh, we're agents of truth. And our role, we decided one day to look at a video, read a book, and something clicked on inside us. I don't even think it had anything to do with us. It's almost as if we were directed to the material. So here's to the agents, all of us. Agents of light. And helping others to see that light is really a noble, noble thing to do. And if you just wake up your dog or cat, that's good enough, right? Okay, so we may ask the panel other questions as individually as time permits, but I would like to give you the opportunity to ask questions. And so we have lines formed, and Rick Hummer is manning a line, and we've got another, I can't see because it's quite blinding up here. And we'll just start taking questions, and I'm not sure who they'll be directed to, but please state the panel member that you'd like the question answered by, and let's begin on this side.
Brian's here from Nashville. Go ahead, Brian.
My question isn't generally directed at anybody in particular on the panel, but what I'd like to ask you is your thoughts on the Antarctic. The reason I asked that question is almost a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, our vice president before the election re-signed an additional treaty in the Antarctic, essentially cutting it off from us. So my question to you is, what are your thoughts on the Antarctic, and how do we as a group try to probe and find truth in that area?
Good question, but can you, did you say the Arctic? It sounded like
Antarctic.
The Antarctic, Arc, or Arctic. It was quite hard to hear up here. So
Not necessarily anybody in particular, but maybe somebody that would
All right.
volunteer.
Who would
as
like to handle that
novice.
question?
Class? Anyone?
He's got it.
So you want to know what our thoughts are on Antarctica? Antarctica is pretty much cut off to the average human being. You can go there. You can go on a trip, a very guided trip. If you tried to go there on your own, I'm not sure if they would stop you, but you'd probably just run out of supplies and not do well in that environment. I believe that whatever is past the shoreline of Antarctica, that many people refer to as the ice wall, is an answer to where we live. Whether there's an end or it goes on forever, I don't know. I haven't been there, and I don't think anybody in this room has. I also think the Arctic, the North, is another place that will give us many answers. And we all have no desire to go to the North Pole because we're all shown the same National Geographic video of those guys with the dogs going to the North Pole, freezing, frozen beards. Remember, we all saw that in school. And, oh, we're there, and we're freezing to death, and we hope we can get back if we had to eat 2 of the dogs. So I believe the answers to where we live are there, and that's why it's pretty guarded or hard to get to. That's my opinion.
Good answer. We'll take the next question from this side.
Hi, I'm Jo Beth. I'm from San Antonio, and my question is for Dave, David Weiss. Yeah. So I've heard you. I love your podcast, by the way, and I've heard you talk about primary water, and I want you to talk more about that as it relates to our realm, our flat Earth realm.
All right, so I'll touch on this quickly. We're all taught that, with the water cycle on the Earth is evaporation, condensation. It evaporates, clouds, storms, rains, and that's the cycle of water. But that's really secondary water. That's not where our water comes from. And I think from everything we all learned here, the water's above and the water's below. There's a lot more water. Gaddafi found an ocean of water below the deserts when he was looking for oil and was piping it all through Africa, built the Great Man-Made River. Many of you have seen a video I did on that. Just look for it, the Great Man-Made River, under my YouTube channel. And that is the primary water of this planet.
You just said planet. You just said planet, dude. Get him out of here.
I did. I'm out.
Get him out of here.
See, I am not fully programmed. I'm deprogrammed.
You are the weakest link.
I am confirmed shill 100%.
Security.
So that's what primary water is. That's why they don't let us dig wells beyond 300-400 feet or whatever it is, because if they did that in California, they would hit unlimited water, and can't have that. So if you want to learn more about that, there's a website called primarywater.org. Check it out.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you for the question. We go over to Rick.
Ryan's over here. Where are you from, Ryan?
I'm from Florida.
All right, what's your question?
I'm just curious. This is for anybody on the panel who has thoughts about this. Given the last couple of years, the increasing saliency in flat Earth, and it was on ESPN with Kyrie Irving, and Obama and Kerry said it on the news, and people are starting to hear about it, and obviously there's a lot of kind of buzz going on, most of it negative. And I know from talking to a lot of people here the last couple of days, a lot of us kind of came to it the same way, which is, this is dumb. It's going to take me 20 minutes to disprove this, and here we all are. I'm wondering if any of you guys has any thoughts on the why we don't have somebody yet from the Jet Propulsion Lab or the Army Corps of Engineers or Caltech, somebody who has 4 PhDs and has heard this and went through the same kind of thing that we have and gone, all right, I'm going to, shut all these idiots up, and why we're not seeing that quite yet. What's it going to take for us to get, that kind of element into the group?
Excellent question. Anybody but DITRH can take that. Bob?
Okay. Well, I guess I would respond to that with another question, and that would be, what makes you think we don't? And the reason I say that is because we are in contact with people of higher degrees, engineers and physicists, that simply do not want their name put out there because of their, what it could do to their professional career. Okay, so I'm here to tell you that yes, there is absolutely an interest from highly educated people in college level positions and very high corporate positions. And, you know, they have to look out for themselves, just like all of us, because anybody that's ever come out, you know, in favor of this movement obviously gets viciously attacked. And the first thing they try and do is completely take away any credibility that they have. And you can't blame them for wanting to avoid that. But an answer is there are people. So there you have it.
As I overheard Rich just say, boom. So there you go. All right, we're going to go right over here and get
We
the
have
next
Gino.
question.
Hi, Gino from Connecticut. I'm going to try not to make this a long-winded question. So I've been involved in ministry since 1993 and prior to the Flat Earth when I clicked on it in 2013. My main source of creationism was from ICR or Answers in Genesis. And when I spent the year doing my due diligence with the Flat Earth, I contacted ICR and Answers in Genesis, but never got any response back. And I don't know if any of you in the higher echelon of what's the Flat Earth movement, have we contacted them? Because they're not doing anything on the Flat Earth. I listen to them somewhat regularly, but they're the mainstream Christian, creationists. And to answer the question that was asked in the beginning, where do you see it going? I see this going from where they left off because they're not talking about this at all. And I see this as an extension of creationism.
I'm not sure who would like to answer that question. It would have to be coming from from a strong Christian background. And I know that there are those beliefs, but does anybody want to handle it? Carly? Yeah.
Well, I can say that personally, I've never, contacted any of these people, but what I can say is that there are people already, in the movement, people like Rob Skiba and Zen Garcia, people who are active voices in the community who are getting this word out, and they are supporting creation. And I think we just need to give it a little bit more time. I'm sure there are people here in the community, though, that have tried to contact, other Christian leaders and other people that do like seminars and conferences like this. But I do think, just like with the rest of the community, there's going to be a tipping point, and I believe that that's going to change. I was talking about people like Bill Schnoblin. He was with the Prophecy Club for a while. I think his YouTube channel is called With One Accord, and he is now a flat earther. So, it is spreading. So I think, and if there are other people out there that know even more information, I think we should share it with each other. If it's going to motivate you to know that, it's spreading as far in the Christian community as well, with the rest of us, then that's a plus. So I hope that gives you some hope. Correct.
You're right. Keep pressing. And also, if you yourself know a pastor, a minister, a rabbi, a fill in the blank, school teacher, whatever it may be, and I know it might be hard, you might be that one person with just a quick note, a quick email that pushes them over the tipping point. Or you might be the entree, the very first person who ever told them about it. They might ignore you. They might block and delete you. But then more people and more people will continue basically tapping on their mental door. And then one moment they'll say, I probably should look into this. But each one of us can be responsible to make that happen. So if you have an opportunity, definitely speak up. Next, Rick.
All right, Keith from Delaware.
My question is open to anyone on the panel that wants to answer, but there's a lot of information, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of conversation in general. And anything you guys hear that kind of makes you maybe cringe when you hear it, it's pro flat earth, but you hear it, you kind of cringe and say, it's not really the best argument, it's not really good data, you don't believe it's true, or anything of that, that nature.
Can I
That's a really
say something?
good question.
I hate the word globetard,
Yes.
and I hate
think
the word
it's-
globehead. I hate
Yes.
any negative connotation thrown back. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not on the panel, though.
I'll agree with that completely. I'm not the content cop of Flat Earth at all, and I believe everyone should do their channel or do whatever they do the way they see fit. But I do think that anything that would be demeaning, as if we're on a higher plane and we're talking down low to people, will set some people off. So trying to be polite and respectful to people who don't know yet, because everyone's a flat earther and they just haven't figured it out yet. So,
Right.
thank you. Really good point. Up next.
We have Michael from Raleigh.
Questions for David. David, I was chatting with Robbie before, and he had mentioned that there's considerable media coverage here, and I know that you've done some interviews. So my question is, what's your assessment of how that coverage has been for the conference?
Well, so far it's been excellent because the only thing I've seen was me on TV last night. I hear, there's a lot of news here, a lot of different channels, and they seem to be doing a lot of reporting. Jaron and I were at the billboard this morning with Vice for HBO, and it all went beautiful. Let's see what happens after the editing room. I believe that these journalists here will be honest. I've talked to some of them off camera, and they're all asking flat Earth questions. They are flat Earth curious and globe skeptical, and so this is the best media turnout I've seen so far, and I think it'll have a lot of repercussions in the coming days. And for those of you that don't know, that is Mike Williams, Sage of Quay, asking
Yes.
the question.
Yes.
Awesome channel, Sage
Subscribe
of
to
Quay
it.
on YouTube. Best interviews ever, especially when he has me on.
And a very good musician as well, Sage of Quay Radio Hour. Subscribe. Rich Hopkins, Mr. Thrive and Survive, would also like to address that question.
Thank you. Very good question. I happened to catch just before I came here, and I don't know if they're still here, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to call them out on it anyway. I saw CBS Philadelphia. They reported that we were here. And as you all know, gone are the days of unbiased reporting. I can remember growing up.
Or reporting in general, really.
Yeah. So to me, there's a couple of things, and this ties in with the other question about what do I cringe about certain things. When I hear President Obama or other people in high places say things like we don't need a gathering of the Flat Earth Society. Well, Flat Earth Society is, as most of you know, that is a true shill place. That is disinformation.
Where have they been during all of this? That's a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah. And as, I can't remember his name, but as a representative, longtime Democratic representative from Massachusetts said, nothing in politics is by accident. So, and you know that because the talking point is to say the Flat Earth Society, and you go there and see all kind of weird things and turn it off. But getting back to CBS Philadelphia, when they mentioned that there was a sold out conference in North Carolina, it was only like, I believe, a 38-second piece. You could hear the cameraman actually laughing when they went to go and show, people here. Then when they came back, the anchor actually concluded the segment with something very close to this. It's hard to believe people like that live among us. Or I want to remind you that these people are living amongst us. Can you believe that? So it hasn't gotten to the point yet where it's very far from socially acceptable not to comment negatively about it. And until that changes, I think the press is going to be, if we're lucky, neutral. But right now, I see way too much biased negative press. Very good question.
Yes. And the press that's here, most hopefully, will, I don't expect them to become instant flat earthers, but when they have some time, look into a few videos yourselves. We are not crazy. Next question over here with Rick.
Michael from Indiana. Indiana! We're alone again.
Here we go. This is a question with the balloon launchers. Maybe Bob can answer this one. All the balloon launch videos I've seen have come from like 120,000 feet, right? Maybe the top 300,000. If you're, I know it's kind of skeptical. It's debatable, right? I've seen a few videos on it, but my question is, It's debatable. Probably it depends on where you're at on the AE map. When you launch them, the highest around the North Pole, maybe, the highest. And then maybe the lowest, well, we can't go to Antarctica, maybe Australia for the lowest part. So anyway, can we get a team to go to these areas and compare the altitude, feet? Also, what is causing these balloons to pop? The firmament? Is it even possible to create an anti-popping firmament balloon?
Entrepreneurs, take note.
All right.
Bob, I think you'd be great at answering this one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have launched a few balloons. Our first one wasn't too successful, but our second one was fabulous. But what causes the balloons to pop? They will only
Gravity?
expand.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's gravity. They'll only expand so much, and of course, as the balloon rises, the helium or hydrogen, whatever you want to fill it with on the inside, expands, and it continues to expand because the external barometric pressure on the balloon becomes less and less and less. Okay, so there becomes a point where you go way past any type of equilibrium, and the helium inside of it just keeps it expanding. All right, and there's only so much elasticity to the balloon. So it gets to a point, usually between 100, maybe 130,000, about 130,000 feet, roughly, something like that. And that's it. That's all she wrote, and it explodes. And there's not a lot we can do about that at this point. But yes, there probably are ways to increase the elasticity and maybe get a little bit higher out of it. But you can spend a small fortune in balloons, believe me.
Yeah.
So.
All right, thank you. Perfect question. Now I think, because I think we're pressed for time, that we should try to make our answers up here really quick. I don't mean yes and no, but pretty quick. And maybe your questions faster as well, if you can. We're going to go over to this side.
This is Brooke from Denver, Colorado.
Really fast. First of all, thank you guys all for the work that you do here. I would like to ask what your knowledge is on the wind patterns on a flat Earth model versus a globe.
I don't know who wants to tackle that question, if at all anyone. DITRH comes to the rescue.
Are you talking about wind patterns at the surface or up high?
Maybe explaining like why they put the windmills where they put the windmills, and is it, just where the wind comes from and how it circulates.
Okay. Wind is generated by, in its simplest form, unequal heating of the Earth's surface. If you believe in the biblical account, and I do, that there was probably a canopy that kept the sun from causing too much difference in the hottest versus the coldest places on Earth. So there was probably very little wind also with no rain back in Noah's day. Now, once that canopy broke up and the sun comes out, then you obviously have, wherever the sun is closest to over the Earth, more heating. But it's even simpler than that. People that live near the ocean will tell you that you have a sea breeze generally in the morning and a land breeze during the day, or maybe it's backwards. I always get that mixed up. But anyway, what happens is the land warms faster than the ocean during the day. That air lifts, and to fill the void, air comes in from the ocean to fill that void. So you get this circulation and wind starts. Windmills are usually placed offshore at strategic places where not only that occurs, but where you have great differences in high and low pressure systems, which is back to temperature again, where you have great temperature changes. Now here on the East Coast, you'll notice after a cold front goes through in particular, the wind will pick up and it will get very windy, especially after a snowstorm. And this is because cold air is rushing in to fill the warm air that's vacating. And this is true all the way up until you get into the mid to higher levels of the atmosphere, where the heating and cooling is not that much difference. But then you get into what's called the jet streams. And they generally flow west to east, which would be actually contradictory to the Earth spinning. They're going against the Earth spin, so explain that. What actually causes them to move in that direction, I'm not exactly sure, but they all move west to east in the northern hemisphere anyway, even in the southern hemisphere. But I'm sorry, that's about as fast as I can make an answer
Complicated
that makes
question.
sense without going on for 20 minutes. So
Thank you for the question and for the answer. We're going to go next over here.
Hi, my name's Joseph. I'm from Archdale here in North Carolina. My question is just for anyone up there who wants to answer it. But every time I watch a flat Earth video on YouTube, I notice that video on the side that talks about that mountain that looks like the stump of a giant tree or things being bigger than what they are now. I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Well, I know that comes from a time of giants living maybe below the earth or living on earth and different levels of oxygen a long time ago. And then, of course, we had no forests on flat earth make a big splash. And that, well, I don't know who would like to address that topic. Carly, she looks excited.
So for anyone that's not familiar with the video that's probably sparking this question, it was a video called "There Are No Forests on Flat Earth." And this might, push the limits with the media, but check into it and with an open mind. And the concept is that at one point in time, the things that we see now, like mesas with their giant mountains that are flat on top, were at one point gigantic trees, and somehow they were cut, or we're not sure. But the tops of the trees are gone because there are some people out there saying that the what's left is just a petrified tree. But as far as you're wanting to know our opinion on how that would work as far as on the flat earth, I mean, I've video logged about this before, and I can definitely see from a biblical standpoint how this could be logical, especially talking about, Rich was talking about a canopy at one point in time, which would change the way wind and weather would work if we have these massive trees. And I know it's very hard to fathom. It would change the oxygen in the air, but they would also give off more oxygen, and they would use up more of our carbon dioxide. And there are stories biblically of there being creatures that lived longer and grew bigger, and that there were things like giants. And I know this sounds like fantasy, but biblically that it makes sense. And also, if you are adhering to Earth having a terrarium like structure or an enclosed system or a firmament or a dome, it makes sense to me that if we had these massive trees, that the environment inside would be super oxygenated, and that's why we would have, creatures that lived longer and grew bigger, and we might have been able to sustain things like giants. Earth was, I think, just very different at one point in time. I hope that answers your question.
And we all know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, and some of those stories that we tell children may have some truth to them. But also the whole no forest on flat earth could also be straight up disinformation. It is not anything where all flat earthers will agree on it. Some people refuse to even look. Some people look and think it's garbage, and other people think it's fascinating. So I'm saying that only for the reporters who are here. We are not all united on that particular topic, and it's not particularly flat earth, actually, but when you get involved in flat earth, it's a whole can of worms, and we all know all the other things we look at all of the time. All right, next question is right here with Rick.
Go ahead, Brandon. Brandon from Maryland, longtime listener. Thanks to this convention, no longer a closeted flat earther.
Yes, we know the closeted flat earthers are out there.
So my question goes to Mr. Nodell. I love learning, and as it's been said at the convention many times, we all have qualities that allow us to speak and reach to people others may not be able to. One way I feel I can do this is by experimentation. With the FE core that was just recently launched, will there be educational material on there that will help people like myself to learn to launch weather balloons, or to repeat the Michigan experiment, say in Bolivia in the salt flats?
Great question. And Bob, as a member of FE core?
Okay. Well, we haven't talked about, what educational material will be provided. The purview of it is to be able to carry out experiments. So rather than us providing the education out, we will reveal our research results, okay? But I don't think it will be in a training type of format. Now, the other way around is that, when we open this to the general public to allow them to submit experiments to us, of course, you're going to have to come up with, a description of your experiment, rough costs, things like that, and how it would be carried out. and then it would be reviewed by the board, and then if it's approved to actually be manifest, then we will start the process to actually bring that experiment into reality. But as far as educational materials, I don't think so, at least not initially. That may be something in the future that we discuss.
All right, thank you very
Shoot
much.
an
Bob.
email to learnmore@fecore.org. That goes right. learnmore@fecore.org.
Thank you, Rick. You have that radio announcer voice. Next question over here.
I have a huge question for my man Daryl right here. Yeah, dude. I need a passionate answer, especially for the media, man. But with this flat Earth fact and a lot of conspiracy facts that we've also heard, man, when you hear someone tell you, hey, you know what, Daryl? I just don't think this affects me. I don't know why it should matter or who should care. What is your most passionate, best answer that you can give to someone with that kind of an ignorant statement?
Yep.
Well, such a statement, well, obviously, it bugs me a little bit, Paul. You know that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. That's, in my opinion, a very selfish stance to take, because it just shows that you don't hold your neighbor's life in high regard. You're not too worried about your kids being lied to. You're not worried about your friends being lied to. This is something that affects each and every one of us in some way, shape, or form. And for someone to take that stance, it just speaks volumes about their character and doesn't speak a very positive tone, in my opinion. But there are so many things that we've been deceived about that need to be exposed, and I see this as somewhat of a gateway drug, as was said, to every other truth. This is pretty much going to open the door to so many other things that we've been deceived about. And for someone to just disregard this, the very nature of our reality, as something that doesn't matter, it just shows a degree of shallow thinking and lack of consideration and just blatant disregard for your fellow man. So in my opinion, this is one of the most important things that we could share and discuss. So
Yes. Thank you for the question. Next question over here, please.
Hi, I'm Robin from Pennsylvania.
Hey! And you're FE!
Okay, mine's for the FE Corps. How I came to Flat Earth, my thought process was already primed, because years ago the Lord was showing me things that there are two entities, period. There's Yahweh and there's Lucifer. Everything that is of this world is from him. And then the more I researched, the more I delved into it, the more I realized I didn't know. And the more I had to stay humble, and the more I had to rethink. And that his tendrils are in everything in our existence. You had me up until the gentleman said the reason it took us, we had to scramble to get the 501c3. Now, in my research, I found out that's a Luciferian contract. So why would you go back to the same government we do not trust for their support when they can come and put the squeeze on you at any time with this contract?
I can answer that. I can answer that. Yeah.
Go ahead then. Yes.
The reason why is because in order for us to get funding and international funding by big names, you have to have a platform. And a 501c3 is going to protect everybody as far as when it comes to playing the game properly. And just so you know, I'm not afraid to admit it, I put it under my own social security number because I believe God's watching over this project. I have faith, and I'm not afraid of any man nor any government.
Right.
Okay? They're not going to put the squeeze. They can squeeze me out. Look, I want to show you something. Look on the back of my neck. Pull that down. What do you see back there? And it says Alpha and Omega in one symbol. So if they ever come to cut my head off, the last they're going to see is who's got my back. Okay?
Thank you, Rick. And we do work, all of us, within, YouTube content providers are dealing with YouTube, Google, Facebook.
Great question, though.
Twitter.
And I'm glad because
all of these are platforms that are controlled by the powers that should not be. But what smoke signals is what we should use. We're going to use what we've got until we find a better way. And working toward that better way, well, that's why we're all here.
You know,
Sorry, say that again? You're not what, restricted? Give her the mic, John, so we can all hear this.
501c3 is a tax exempt status that most churches put themselves under. And they're also then controlled about what they can teach and what they can share and what they can support. But they aren't aware there's a 508 status that gives them the same exemptions without as many restrictions. So if you're really wanting to be able to have a platform that allows you to take donations but does not limit your content.
So what you're saying
Look
is they
into
can
508 status
so the
rather than
501c3 they can control the content in which we do.
Oh, and they will, yeah.
Okay, so
And you're considered a government agency. You
well,
just
the
made
beautiful
yourself
thing is we found
working
out
for the
that
government.
okay, hang on. This is how God works. When I left on Monday, the last thing I did was I went and took this package. I'm glad you did this. This is an answered prayer, maybe. I dropped the package off in the mail, but I put it in a sturdy envelope and dropped it in the mail. By the time I got here on Tuesday, I got a phone call from the guys back at the office, and they said, hey, this envelope you sent just came back. You didn't put enough packaging on there, enough stamps. So thank you. And I would like to talk to you after this because we are actually working with the foundation group out of Nashville, Tennessee that's doing this. Jaron did a bunch of work. Jaron Kemp, I don't know if Jaron's in here or not, but he did a bunch of work getting this thing started. So once we did this and we realized, wow, we got to really do this by the book. The best thing that we were told by our consultant was go 501c3 because of the exemptions, like you said. And it was more friendly with international money coming in, and maybe that's because of all the missionary work and the government's going to have their hand involved. Maybe you're right there, and I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
It's a think tank right here. Thank you for that comments. And thank you very much, Rick. We're right over here now for the next question.
I was just wondering about the tides and how the moon is supposed to deal with the tides. Mr. Thrive or Bob are scientific. I know it doesn't deal with large lakes like Lake Michigan and whatnot, just the oceans. Is there any consensus starting on that as far as whether the moon really does that or if it's guided by something else? Anything about the tides? High tide, low tide?
Bob and Rich perhaps will answer these questions. Rich first.
There's a consensus in my mind. I don't know if there is with anybody else. Is this working? To me, it goes back to what I said yesterday. It's a Tesla world, not an Einstein world. And everything that I've looked into is answered with if the Earth is a positive magnetically, and the moon and or sun are the opposite, negative. As it moves over, particularly salt water, which is a lot more conductive to electricity than fresh water, although fresh water has some properties too. I have to redo this video. I did a video a long time ago where it shows wherever the moon, I'm just going to stick with the moon for the moment, passes over, everything north of that passage, the water moves away from it and towards the north. Everything to the left of its movement moves away also and bends away towards the south. This is what causes most oceans and air in the northern hemisphere to cause clockwise high pressure systems and counterclockwise or anticyclonic in the south. And it's an easy division to see. Now, as far as tides go, there is a definite correlation between the moon and tides, but it's not what we've been told. We've been told if the moon is close to your location, that you will have a high tide, and when it's on the opposite side, you'll have a high tide once again, and when it's in between, you have the low tides. Well, what I noticed was, for example, in Spain, let me go with the east coast of the United States first. When the moon is over the east coast, and I lived in Maryland and did crabbing and things like that, When the moon is close, you tend to have a high tide. It makes sense. But in Spain, when the moon is close, with the same longitude, you have a low tide. There is no rhyme and reason with that. But there is a definite correlation with time. If you have at your place a high tide, and tides are a little bit difficult because any little change in the ground or how the land is laid out will change tides. Water accumulates, and it does it by being pushed. And that is another property, a physical property of water that most people don't understand. They think, science tells us it pulls up. Nothing could be further from the truth. Water doesn't pull up. Water accumulates. And what I believe happens is the moon pushes out in front of it the water. And if you go to timeanddate.com and just pick any spot and do a correlation with time, you will find that there is a correlation with time, but it doesn't follow high-low tide. It could be a correlation of high tide when the moon is close or low tide or in between. So, and this is easy for anyone to prove, anyone. Just go and do the work. So that's my answer for it.
Bob, do you have anything to add to that?
Only that water has also diamagnetic properties, and that magnetic fields will cause water to be repulsed away. But there's also another philosophy, another theory that comes from like Vedic cosmology, and I'm not so sure that I can dismiss it, and that is the idea that water is actually inflowing and outflowing from the center of the North Pole, if you will, right? Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask Rick Hummer, since our time clock has gone to 0000.
We probably only have time for like one or two more questions
All
because
right,
I know
then.
you wanted to ask a couple questions before we close. Because dinner's from 4:30 to 6, and we're at about what 4:25
So
right
we're
now.
going to have a couple more questions,
Yes.
and then I'm not going to ask the panel any more questions.
Okay.
So up next.
My name is Tony Gillerisi. I'm from Abbotsford, British Columbia, and
Thanks for coming.
thank you. And my question is for Bob, and it is for the FE Corps. I would like to know if there's anybody who's thought of or possibly getting a telescope of some sort that would be able to track the sun going around the flat Earth for 24 hours a day.
Well, that would be quite an engineering feat. I suppose it's possible, but it would require, it couldn't be done from a single location, obviously. It would have to be tracked in a plane that is capable of at least 1,038 miles an hour, right? That would be the only way it could be done. I suppose it's feasible, but I don't really see what practical significance it would necessarily have. I mean, we can track it from the ground fairly well. So I'm not sure that chasing it from the air would really give us any major benefit.
And it may not emanate from that spot that we look at anyway. We
And
don't really
the
know.
only plane that we would have is Sophia, and they're not going to let us use that. NASA won't. So.
All right. Go ahead.
Just to let you know, there are people that are tracking the sun 24/7 around. There's a group that I mentioned yesterday that are tracking sunspots. And 24/7, they have observers all around the world constantly reporting back what's going on. So in a sense, we are doing it in a low-tech way.
Okay.
Patricia, we're going to finish these up. We've only got 3 questions.
Next question right here.
Dave Romero from San Diego, California. My question is, how do you think the flat Earth or the revelation of flat Earth might help with the science of cheap or free energy?
Good question. I don't know who would like to tackle that. I'm thinking DITRH, you may have some ideas about free energy. He's got some ideas about everything from what I've figured out.
I'm not sure how to answer that question. One thing I have learned that we are electrical beings, and that when we are grounded to the earth, we are healthier and happier. That's why people love being at the beach barefoot. If you're ever not feeling well, not sleeping well, just go out and get on the earth. Walk barefoot in the grass, lay down. And those free electrons that you get will make you feel better. How that relates to the flow of energy in your body, there's other people that can answer that better than me, but I'm sure it has a profound effect.
Yeah.
And I just want to add one thing to the person that asked about the no forest on Earth. There's a video called Growing megaliths from living stones. Very interesting. I recommend people look at it and decide for yourself what the heck is going on. Growing
Right.
megaliths from
Thank
living
you
stones.
for that question. Up next over here.
Hey, I'm Mac from New Westminster, British Columbia. So Abbotsford, we got to hook up. So my question is, I'll try to narrow it down, but you know, the flat Earth community is going every which way. There's a lot of infighting. I mean, the common, our goal is to end the enslavement of humanity. And yes, it's great that we're doing more and more experiments to kill the globe, but I mean, the globe's already dead. My fear is, and I like what Daryl said, he kind of answered a little bit, but you know, if I've got 30 people that have stopped believing in the globe and now they're like, well, I don't care, I got to go to work, meaning I got to go on with my enslavement. You know, my fear is that the world's going to wake up to flat Earth and the enslavement's still going to be there. Like, I know they say there shouldn't be leaders on flat Earth, but in my feeling, like, what do you guys think? There has to be some kind of leadership to focus this in one direction, and that direction is to end the enslavement of humanity, better life for, you know, our children and their children.
Well, when there's leaders, that leader can be taken out. And I think that's why we have a leaderless movement at this point. But we all have the ability to exercise leadership roles. So more people stepping up and being in that leadership role, I think, is very necessary, because people could easily fall right back, not us, but people can easily fall right back to sleep again because they've got to go make the donuts, as the expression goes. So I don't know what we do to change that other than wake up more people faster.
But how about going, I mean, my main thing is going in like kind of one direction and not in every direction.
Mm.
Sure, we can all be leaders and we're going somewhere, but like kind of have some sort of a focus, and focusing on the enemy is what I'm saying.
Well, the enemy is always going to be there
Yes, yes.
until the last day. That's
Carly
it.
Sunshine has a comment to that.
I would like to comment on that just a little bit. I want everyone in this room to understand that all of you, because you're here, are the pioneers. You guys right now are going to be the ones that are going to move into the future. You guys are steps ahead of everyone. And so I'm putting out a challenge right now. So this means we move forward and we respect each other. We don't attack each other. We're going to learn what we need to learn scientifically and figure out the mechanics of this earth. But we need to learn how to love each other so we can move forward and we can teach the rest of the world, teach the next generations about the truth of this earth.
Thank you, Carly. Beautifully put. And our last question, right over here.
Hi, I'm Malo from Chicago. I'd like to thank God first, all glory to the Most High, for getting us all here safe, keeping us safe, and getting us all home safe. I'd also like to say I've been blessed to go to the Global and Flat Earth Debate in Duluth, Georgia. I was blessed to go to Take on the World Conference that NYS TV and Chris and Liz Bailey threw in Ohio. I'm blessed to be here with all of you. I wish I had enough courage to talk to you guys and stay at the hotel maybe next time. This thing is not going to stop growing. It is getting bigger. More people are more curious and they want to connect with people. It's been a lonely few years, and I'm glad to see more people come here. God bless all of you.
Thank you, my love. And his dog, Shanti. Beautiful dog, German Shepherd. I guess that concludes our panel, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Maybe you have other questions, and you can feel free to approach any of the panelists at your leisure. We have a dinner, we've got a film from Robbie Davidson, and we have the infamous Flatty Awards with Mark Sargent and I that closes things out. And all sorts of fun to be had tonight, because I'm just sure there'll be a little bit of partying, whether it's alcohol or whether it's water tonight. And so I hope to see all of you in all of those events yet ahead for us. This has been momentous, and we're going to do it all again next year, but even better. Thank you so much.